some point, it's not just about teaching someone vocabulary. You gain so much satisfaction from those relationships too.
Don't be a coward. Just try and face it, like head on.
In a minute, I had to like switch off and forget about everything that I had planned.
This attunement is a very unappreciated aspect of teaching all over.
So when you feel that the energy is off, it probably is.
To some extent, we can say that everybody needs to be a bit of a psychologist, right?
Yeah. If I see this spark in my students' eye when they're like talking to me and they smile at me, you know, they're open up in some way, like it makes my heart melt.
Welcome to the podcast of AKN, Ask, Know, Nurture. And today our guest is Cornelia, our teacher of 7 years, although she has been teaching for way longer, and a psychologist. She has recently graduated from psychology and is now going to enter into a program of, what is it called? I'm very sorry.
Psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy, excuse me, yes, exactly. And that school lasts like, what, 4 years?
4 years, exactly.
Exactly.
Yes.
So Cornelia is a great psychologist and she's a great English teacher, a demanding one, and also a very successful one. I have recently noticed, you know, when a student leaves our school, and on occasion it has to happen, we ask them to leave a review. And when I read the reviews that they leave after your classes, you're very specific, so I know exactly what kinds of things they value in you. And one of those things is just being a human, being a person that adjusts to their pace, to their personality. And so today's podcast will all be about this, about attunement in teaching. So the first question is, what is this attunement and how do you manage that?
Right. So attunement, and here I will give you a little bit of a background. It is a term which comes from psychology, from psychodynamic approach. And it's at its core, it's basically the ability of the mother to read the emotional state and needs of a newborn child, attune to it, meet those needs, so that the child is able to develop properly. And here we're talking about the brain developing properly and all that stuff. So super important ability, right? Attunement is also considered a very important skill for therapists, because if a psychotherapist is able to attune to the patient and react here and now to the needs, to the emotional state, then it provides this kind of, support for the patient, which, for example, they did not receive from their parents, because, for example, the parents did not have this kind of ability, right? And this is often, the reason why they're struggling in adult life, right? So it's a very important skill to have. But what does it exactly mean? It's basically the ability to read the other person's emotional state, both like emotional, but also cognitive, as well, and be in sync with that, okay? And so the ability to react accordingly as well, right? Here and now, okay?
I see.
So this is attunement, right? So when you think about teaching, it sounds a little bit much like, I'm not here to reparent my student, right? That's not it. But on the other hand, when you told me that you want to talk about it, I immediately thought like, oh, this is a great topic actually, because I do attune to my students a lot. Maybe not in the same extent as a mother to a newborn, but So in teaching, I think of it from two different perspectives. One perspective is that you attune to this emotional state, the energy of the person here and now. On the other hand, you also attune to their needs in terms of their academic, excellence, let's say, right?
Right.
So yeah, those two things, and we have to reconcile them as teachers. Yeah, that's our job.
Exactly, we do, absolutely. I mean, I never use this particular term, like I wouldn't use it in class because students will be like, excuse me, what? Yes, but that's exactly what we do, yeah, and we have to do it. Now, would you say that the techniques, or I don't know, the ways you've been using to do that have changed for you over the years?
Yes, I think that I wouldn't say techniques or strategies. I think it's more of an organic kind of reaction. Over the years, I've worked with many students. Like I don't even know how many, but and so I've come across a lot of different types of people, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different needs, and so over the years, I've developed this kind of ability to read the person better. And so identify their needs even before they verbalize it, you know?
See. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Mostly it does, yeah, because it's like, you kind of observe certain patterns. Yeah. So I would say that probably, yes, it has changed over the years, but it's been like an organic shift that you kind of gain with experience, with exposure, and so on.
All right. And then if you do manage to build this, and you actually do because your students just love you,
Oh,
then
thank you.
how does it impact the work?
Greatly. Greatly. Oh my goodness. I've had so many situations when I would come in with a certain agenda for the classes, certain materials prepared, certain goal in mind, and so on. And then I would see the student being in like a completely different energy than I was in. Mm-hmm. And, in a minute, I had to like switch off and forget about everything that I had planned. And just adjust and ask them like, what do you need from me today?
Yeah.
Either ask them openly or just kind of ask yourself, what does this person need from me today?
Sure.
And just be that, And when my students see that, I don't know, I've never asked them about it, but I believe that this is how it works. When they see that I'm able to kind of like read into their needs here and now and resign from my own agenda and give them the space, sometimes to just vent about their work, their partners, their kids, whatever it is. They're like, okay, I can be myself. I feel safe here. I feel like, I'm not a project.
Yeah.
I'm a person that is seen, that is supported. And so that automatically makes the student like the teacher more, right?
Sure.
But also it creates this kind of sympathy that, when you like someone, you don't want to disappoint them, for example.
True, absolutely.
You want them to like you back.
Absolutely.
Right? So in that way, it also indirectly, of course, impacts the learning process, their engagement. Yeah,
absolutely.
They don't cancel classes very often.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. I once had the student, and I would do feedback on a regular basis. And one of the questions I once asked was, okay, so we've been, learning for quite a while. And like, what's the reason you're actually learning English? Because it was like 3 years in already. It's like, you. Excuse me? Oh, because, you prepare this, and this for me, and I feel obliged to actually give something back. So your engagement is the reason I'm actually coming to these classes, because I have reached the level I wanted to, but now I want to just like reward you for your work. So that I notice is quite a frequent case at our school. Yeah? Students have reached their goals, and now they are just sticking around because they feel good in the company of the teacher, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I feel like with some of my students, and they've mentioned it, that before the classes, they have this kind of, routine that they literally think about what they want to talk about in class with me, like what they want to share. Like before they go to psychotherapy, they do it because you have to, sort of. Yeah. But before the classes, they also do it. Like, oh, what is something that I would like to discuss with my teacher? And this is, amazing because I'm like, oh wow, this is like, you prepare for it.
Absolutely. But what? Now that you say it, I do that before my Spanish classes. As a student, I do that too. I love it. Excellent. Yeah. All right. Would you say that like attunement is related to self-esteem and motivation? And if so, then how?
For sure, yeah. Motivation, absolutely. I'm thinking about the self-esteem in what way I could bite that. But motivation for sure, because like I said, if you see that your teacher sees you, you feel understood, you feel supported, then you automatically feel satisfied, right?
Yeah.
In the classroom, and so you want to show up, you want to be prepared, and so on. To self-esteem, yes, because I would say that if a student struggles with self-esteem, and the teacher is attuned enough to kind of take care of that aspect, right? Because very often self-esteem has an impact on how you learn and how you interact with your teacher. So if a teacher is attuned enough to give you this sense of safety and understanding, then definitely that boosts your self-esteem over time. Of course, it's not, because I feel like very often people assume that, you do it once and it shifts something in the student. No. Sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years.
It's nice that you mentioned that. Exactly. Yeah. It's just ongoing effort, right? Yeah. You have to do it all the time. Have you noticed that you had to make shifts within attunement methods even, I would say, over a course of, let's say, a year with a particular person because they needed something else every
absolutely. Time? Sometimes even, yes, over longer periods of time, but sometimes even within one lesson. Mm-hmm. Like these dynamics change so quickly sometimes. It's you have to be very alert to those things and react quickly. But yes, when it comes to like a longer process, yes, I've had this with a couple of students that they came in like a good condition, I would say. They came in, they had a good motivation, they had a good energy, and so on. And then They were motivated, they were confident, they were like, yes, let's do this. And then, after a few months, they started doubting themselves, for example, for, one reason or another. Winter came.
Yeah.
So their mood automatically got worse. Stress at work, stress at home, whatever. And that also affects how you perceive yourself, of course.
Sure.
So within the classroom as well, you're going to be like, oh, I'm no good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, and then you also have to take care of that aspect as well as a teacher, right? So what I actually do, now that I think about it, is when I see that my student is going through some kind of rough period and they're starting to doubt their own ability to learn. And sometimes I've even had students tell me openly, I'm thinking about quitting classes.
Right.
I love the lessons, everything is great, but I don't see the progress and it's beating me down, I just feel really bad about myself. And you know what I do? I lower my kind of, this demanding side, this part of me. I'm like, okay, shh. And I give them a few lessons where they can see, for example, how much progress they've made.
I see.
And so I do classes that are a little bit simpler.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go back to the topics that we've already done, and I know that they did well in those areas, to show them like, no, you're doing great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not all bad like you claim. Yeah. So yes, in those ways, you also have to attune because there's ups and downs all the time.
Absolutely,
right?
Exactly. This is brilliant. All right. Do you think that students see long-term benefits to this kind of approach where you seem so adjusted every time? And do they express it in any way to you in class?
Yes, definitely. I think that the best feedback I've received from students was exactly that. And actually, they always say that, oh, I'm so grateful to Agnieszka for matching us. I've had this with a few students. And it always comes up after, usually like after a year or two of working together, when they're like, wow, like this wasn't just like a short-term kind of thing. Yeah. Like, she seemed great at the beginning, but then she was like, whatever, I don't care. No, it's like usually after a long time when I prove myself to be this attuned, adjusted teacher. So definitely. And yes, and I feel like this kind of long-term benefit is actually not only for the student, that they're more engaged and they want to stick and they see this, they gain this satisfaction, but also for the teachers.
Yeah.
Because at some point, it's not just about teaching someone vocabulary or passing on the knowledge that you have in this like very raw way, but you gain so much satisfaction from those relationships too.
Exactly.
If I see this spark in my student's eye when they're like talking to me and they smile at me, we're talking about something deep and they're like sharing something with me. I mean, deep, appropriate for English lessons, but they're open up in some way. It makes my heart melt. Seriously.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I remember this one time, I think it was close to the time, shortly after you got your puppy. And you shared it with us, I think, on Slack or something, with all the other teachers, that your student was supposed to like write a story with some words. And she wrote a story about you and your puppy, and it was so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And this week, oh my goodness, I had the funniest, the sweetest, conversation with two of my students. Two students, they don't know each other, separate classes. They both came back from 2-week holidays. And both of them came to class and they were like, oh my goodness, I thought about you every day. Because, one of them was in Thailand, one of them was in Hawaii. I was walking around Thailand. I was like, this is where you have to come for your honeymoon next year with your future husband. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And like, I was like so moved by that. And then in the afternoon, the other student says the same thing. I thought about you when I was in Hawaii. I was like, this is the perfect place for you to come for your honeymoon. So, it's amazing when you think about it.
That is so sweet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you see, this is the best proof that you're doing such a great job. And, like the level of understanding must be really, really high. Yeah. Because I think students basically, for them to think about us outside of the class, like, come on holiday.
Yeah, I'm just an English teacher. Like, I'm not even your colleague at work or your boss who you see every day. You see me 1 hour a week,
right.
And you
so
think about
sweet.
me.
Oh my goodness, I just love this. Oh my gosh. Okay, are there any practical solutions, strategies, you name it, I don't know, ways that you could recommend perhaps to teachers that they could use to attune well to their students?
So yes, I think you said earlier, being very observant and trusting your gut. So when you feel that the energy is off, it probably is. And something that we shouldn't fall into, and we often do, unfortunately, is we shouldn't assume that the energy is off because of us. Because sometimes students come in and they're pissed. They're just pissed, and you can feel it.
You can tell, yeah.
And sometimes what happened with me years back is I would assume that they're pissed at me for some reason, and I would become anxious. I would be like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Are they going to quit? Are they not satisfied? And then, it kind of spiraled. And so the lesson did not get any better because we were both anxious, right? So what is important is assume that it's not you, unless you have like specific reasons to think that, and try to get the information, like what's actually going on, because the chances are that the student's pissed about something completely else, and that this kind of open communication is key, I would say, in this situation. Because that also, if they open up and they tell you about it, it also builds some kind of, stronger relationship, right? Because they talk about something difficult. So definitely, yes, reading the room, feeling the energy, not assuming that it's you, assuming that it's something else, and asking about it, right, openly. That's one thing. Okay. Another thing that's important in this case is also, oh my God, I had a thought and it slipped my mind.
No worries, no worries.
Yes, let's forget about it.
Happens to all of us. But I think that, because I wanted to make sure everybody hears it well. That, being observant, this is number one. Trusting your gut, because at the end of the day, you must know what's going on, right? Or you should at least try. But also, I think, really use your life experience to be able to tell. And also, if you ask them what's going on, do it in a right way, I suppose, because not everybody's so open. Not everybody's going to tell you right away. Although a lot of our students do like to share stuff that happens in their lives, right? So I have this one person in mind that I teach, that is not very open. So that wouldn't be a person that will tell me right away what's going on, So if I do want to feel him out, I'm going to have to ask a number of different types of questions before I actually, realize what the case is. But I already noticed it's happened on a few occasions, and so I needed to give him time and reprocess his way of thinking about something, and then it did help. So to some extent, we can say that everybody needs to be a bit of a psychologist, right?
Yeah. Yes.
A lot of our students say that, There was the student perhaps a year ago. He was leaving after many years of learning with us, with multiple teachers. And he calls and says, listen, Agnieszka, I would like to say thank you for 12 years of the best psychotherapy in English. I was like, oh, really? Great, wonderful. And so he left because he had different priorities. But a year passed and he's back with us, He says, it seems like I really cannot live without the school because the level dropped. But he also mentioned that, he feels so safe in the classroom because those people, they always know how to act. They always know how to ask him the right questions and stuff. So he says English on the one side, but like this being just a nice partner on the other. And I'm not talking about a person who is very, talking about everything, all problems that happen in his life. Not at all. So I'm just thinking now that this attunement is a very unappreciated aspect of teaching all over.
Definitely.
Would you say that this is a path where, because a lot of people that are psychologists at our school, they say, I was always like, okay, so once they graduate, they will leave teaching for sure, because now they can do something else. But a lot of you guys say that, no, you don't want to leave teaching. Why is that? Does it have something to do with being, having nice people around, practicing psychology to some extent?
You know what? I think because I myself have this plan that I don't want to quit teaching, because it's a very cool job. It's great. You get to see people, make this kind of progress. and you get to build relationships with people. And at the same time, yes, it does have a lot to do with what we do in our like psychological consultations or whatever, right? So I wouldn't say that it's like a completely different path, but maybe in some way they're complementary.
Okay.
Yes. So I would say that definitely teaching in specific circumstances, like in our school, when we have like those one-on-one meetings or max 2 or 3 people, it does have a lot to do with this kind of relationship aspect, for sure. But on the other hand, for example, from my side is simply that I cannot imagine, not having this kind of contact with people outside of just these kind of consultations, right?
Right.
Because on the one hand it's similar, on the other is a completely different responsibility. You get to talk about other things than just somebody's difficulties, etc. So classes are just fun. They're super fun for the students and for the teachers. We enjoy them. We can talk about all these different topics. And I don't want to resign from that ever,
That is so nice to hear. Plus, it's sort of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because you get to not forget your English skills, I suppose.
For sure, yeah.
Although I suppose there will also be a lot of clients on the market in need of psychology in English.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that this is changing. Yeah. Okay, so the last question. Do you think that every teacher is ready to identify himself as a person that is ready to attune in class that is one-on-one? Do you think are they ready? You can't tell you can't speak for everyone, but do you think
theoretically speaking?
Yes. Exactly.
I know what you're asking, and I believe not. I believe that the ability to attune is something that we kind of course, some people have it naturally.
Yeah.
And, I love that for them, unicorns. But I believe that this is something that comes from some hard work with yourself. Yeah. So, for instance, in my case, after my psychotherapy, I've become a lot more attuned to, other people, not only at work, but also in my private relationships.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of teachers do not have this awareness.
I see.
And so that kind of comes from this wider context in your life and your life experience. Because I cannot imagine myself at the age of 18 or 20 or even 23, attuning to some students, because simply I did not have this knowledge, this kind of life knowledge,
Right.
So it comes with time, it comes with experience, but it also comes with your own, hard work with yourself, with your own psyche, with your own triggers. Right. I've been triggered many times in classrooms by some things that students said. And it wasn't like an attack on me, absolutely not. We were talking about something neutral, and they said something, and it triggered something in me that I didn't understand at the time. Now I do.
I
now
see.
I know what it was.
Right.
And we're teachers, so we're not psychoanalysts. We're not like a blank page.
Right.
So we have our own beliefs, we have our own schemas, and we have our own wounds that can be triggered in the classroom, and that can make us defensive. And that can make us react in a way that maybe isn't the best way to react towards your student. And you might want to quit working with the student because they have certain beliefs or ideologies that you don't agree with, right?
Sure.
So being aware of your own kind of triggers is super important as well. And this is where attunement comes from as well, right?
I see.
If you can regulate yourself. I mean, this is why the mother is able to take care of the newborn, because she's able to regulate herself. If she can't, poor baby, right?
Oh, okay.
So same thing comes in here. If you're able to regulate your own emotions, your own reactions, and even if the student says something and you're like, oh God, that really triggered me, but you're able to take it in and still react in a very subtle and understanding way and ask questions and still listen actively, even if you disagree with them, or you're able to disagree with them in a very empathetic way.
Right.
And continue the conversation. This is the best skill you can have. But this is something that comes with time and with your own kind of
So what do we say to teachers who are that young, who are 20 and they are just at the beginning of their careers?
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to imagine myself. What would I tell to myself? Oh, I would have sent myself to therapy long ago. It's the best thing that happened to me.
Okay, so young teachers? Be aware, go to therapy.
Yes, I would say yes. Observe yourself a lot in the classroom. Observe yourself with what kind of students it's difficult for you to work with, what kind of personalities trigger you. Because students can be very, like I said earlier, you can be intimidated by certain personalities.
Yeah.
And it's the solution isn't to avoid working with those people. No. The solution is to work with them as much as possible, expose yourself, and learn how to work with those people. Observe, what works, what doesn't, what kind of emotions it evokes in you.
Right.
And, that's the only way to kind of overcome your own, insecurities even,
Absolutely
I would say.
true. Okay, so basically, don't run away.
No.
Don't be a coward.
No.
Just try and face it, head on.
Yes.
I think that's hard. For certain people, that could be really, really tough. And when I think about my teachers from schools, years ago, there was no place for relations. There was no place for attunement. I know those classes were, large. There were 30 students in class and all that. But I remember that it was very, very rare for me to feel that there was this attunement, there was any kind of emotion involved, positive emotion, because there was lots of negative emotion, of course, So then, do you believe it is possible for teachers teaching at regular schools with large groups that they could do something here, or?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there's this entire, field of psychology which focuses on that as well. On how to implement the psychological knowledge in the classrooms. Like I said earlier, it's not about being attuned to an individual person anymore, but there's also space for that in large classrooms, because if you observe that a certain student doesn't feel confident or has particular issues with their own self-esteem, they feel shy or ashamed to make mistakes, then you can also have individual conversations with them and acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
And give them tips, for instance, even, right? It's not about having, whole interventions, right? But little things like acknowledging that, I saw that you were a little bit shy today. What's going on? What do you think would help you? Would you like me to, assume a different approach with you? Or whatever, yeah? But I think this, open communication is key, right?
And informing them that we are there for them.
Exactly.
Right? And I think very often they don't know that.
No.
Especially in those large groups. I remember I had one student like this. I was teaching in London. The group was 25 and there were people from different countries. There was this one girl from Slovakia. And she was really, she was very disappointed because here I was appearing in class for the first time. Because as it turned out, their previous teacher just quit from day to day. I was not a native speaker. I was Polish. And she was like, what does a Polish person do in my class? I came to London to learn English. And she was so disappointed. And she was just vocalizing it. Okay. And she was really, really mad. And so whatever I suggested we did, she would be like, no, that's wrong, that's right. So what I did was I actually talked to her one-on-one after the class. And I asked her to point out the kinds of things she actually likes to do in class. And I said I would try to incorporate it. A week later, she was a completely different student. So this means it works. You just have to approach them individually and show them that you care. I think that's the key. Because for me, if I see that the teacher cares, then I care as a student.
Yes,
right?
definitely. And also, if someone comes up to you, with the heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And then, I mean, unless you're some kind of, a psychopath, you would feel bad about rejecting them.
Yeah.
Right?
That is so true. That is so true.
It's important to be vulnerable as well with our students. I'm vulnerable with my students all the time, I tell them things about myself. I open up to them as well, of course, if there's space for it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's the aspect we didn't mention. I think students like it when we say something about our lives as well.
Yeah, definitely. They're curious.
Exactly. They just want us to share just like they share, right? Okay. I'm afraid that, the time is up. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you about it for much longer. So thank you very much for coming, Cornelia.
Thank you for having me.
I hope to see you soon again.
Yes, me too.